What happened while we were away, brought to you by Birthright Citizenship. The Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments today on a challenge to President Donald Trump's efforts to end birthright citizenship, and crucially, whether lower courts that have blocked Trump's policies from taking force nationwide have acted beyond their authority. The Supreme Court arguments are focusing on lower court judges in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington state who issued universal injunctions against Trump's birthright citizenship executive order earlier this year. The Trump administration asked the Supreme Court in March to intervene and limit the scope of 3 lower court rulings to cover only individuals directly impacted by the relevant courts. President Trump continued his Middle East tour this morning in the United Arab Emirates. During yesterday's meetings in Qatar, Trump reacted to the news that Vladimir Putin isn't showing up to talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, after all, in Turkey today.
Are you disappointed by that?
No, I didn't anticipate. I actually said, why would he go if I'm not going? Because I wasn't going to go. I wasn't planning to go. I would go, but I wasn't planning to go. And I said, I don't think he's going to go if I don't go. And that turned out to be right. But we have people there. Marco, as you know, is doing a fantastic job. Marco's there, Secretary of State, and we have people there. But I didn't think it was possible for Putin to go if I'm not there.
Back at home, Ben Cohen, co-founder of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, disrupted testimony from RFK Jr. in front of the House hearing.
Be permitted while the committee conducts its business. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals.
HHS Secretary RFK Jr. also clapped back at the purple-haired Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro.
38% of our youth now are diabetic or pre-diabetic. That was 0 when I was a kid. Anybody thinks that we did gold standard medicine in this country from these institutions, look at our children. They're the sickest children in the world. Laura, you say that Congressman DeLauro, you say that you've worked for 20 years on getting food dye out. Give me credit. I got it out in 100 days.
I'll give you that credit.
All right, so let's work together and do something that we all believe in, which is have healthy kids in our country, for God's sake.
At that same hearing, RFK Jr. also revealed there are around 8 million people in this country who receive Medicaid benefits who are not eligible. Illegal aliens taking Medicaid in 2 different states and so on. Congressman Chip Roy says the crucial thing he's fighting for is to reform these entitlements.
All we're talking about, to Ron John's point, Senator Ron Johnson, is $150 billion a year in savings in this bill out of a $7 trillion spend for your government. 10 years ago, our total spend was $3.6 trillion. Today, it is $7 trillion. We're already talking about crumbs, Will. If you want to save this country for our kids and grandkids, we're sitting and staring at $36 trillion in debt. It'll be $56 trillion, even if I get everything I want. So I've got to go fight to reform Medicaid so we can stop funding the able-bodied, stop the blue state money laundering, and restore fiscal sanity for the American people. If we do that, Trump will have the greatest economy ever. The SALT guys can get what they want. We can reform Medicaid. More vulnerable will be protected. There'll be more health care freedom, and we will reduce the deficit. That's a win for everybody if we'll just do it.
Michigan Congressman Sri Thenadar, who is attempting to impeach President Trump, can't answer basic questions about his own district.
I don't know. What are the 5 Grosse Pointe cities?
Well, look, I'm not here to answer a quiz.
On the topic of immigration, border czar Tom Homan says people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are walking, talking jokes.
I was enforcing it. I was wearing a green uniform, Border Patrol agent, for 5 years before she was even born. I had more than 3 decades enforcing immigration law before she became a member of Congress. I worked for 6 presidents. I've seen policies. I've seen hundreds of policies. Some worked, some didn't. But you can't deny the success of the Trump administration when it comes to border security. Again, the most secure border in history of this nation. And I said from day one, and she knows this, you can not support ICE. Shame on you. You can support sanctuary cities. Shame on you. But you can't cross the line. You can't knowingly impede ICE law enforcement officers. That is a felony. You can't harbor and conceal, knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE. That is a felony. And you certainly can't commit criminal trespass. You know, and as far as New York, her district, this administration has done more to protect her district than she has. The number of criminal aliens we took off the streets of New York made her community much safer. She ought to be thanking the members of this administration, the men and women of ICE, who protect this country and make her community safer. So, you know, it's politics over public safety. It's just ridiculous. She ought to love her community more than she hates Trump.
A new poll from the Associated Press shows that 6 months after President Trump's victory in November, Democrats remain deeply pessimistic about the future of the party. The poll found only about 1/3 of Democrats are very optimistic or even somewhat optimistic about their party's future. That's down sharply from July of 2024, when about 6 in 10 said the same thing. In completely unrelated news, House Speaker Mike Johnson has canceled votes tomorrow over the big, beautiful bill because around a dozen in his own caucus say the bill doesn't cut spending enough, and another half dozen or so say it doesn't spend enough. And that's what happened while we were away.